If you're over 60, there's one organ almost nobody thinks about until something starts going wrong. Not your heart, not your knees, not your back, your pancreas. And that is a mistake, because your pancreas sits quietly in the background doing two jobs that affect almost everything you care about as you age. It helps you digest food, and it helps regulate your blood sugar. When it is working well, you barely notice it. When it is under strain, your energy, your digestion, your weight, and your long-term health can all start drifting in the wrong direction. I spent 20 years as a Navy SEAL, and for a long time I thought health problems announced themselves loudly. I thought if something serious was happening, you would know. Pain, breakdown, an obvious warning sign. But the older I got, and especially after my own wake-up call in my late 40s, I learned that many of the biggest health problems begin quietly. They build in the background while a man keeps telling himself he's basically fine. That is exactly why I want to talk to you about the pancreas, because this is not just some medical textbook organ. This thing matters every single day. It helps release enzymes into the small intestine to break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. It also releases hormones like insulin and glucagon to help control blood sugar. In other words, it helps your body turn food into usable fuel and helps keep sugar levels from swinging all over the place. And after 60, protecting that system matters more than people realize. Not because aging automatically destroys the pancreas. That is too simplistic. But because the habits that often pile up over the years can put real strain on it. Heavy alcohol use, smoking, excess body weight, poorly controlled blood sugar, diets built around sugary drinks and heavily processed foods, repeated inflammation. Those things can increase the risk of pancreatic trouble over time, including pancreatitis, diabetes problems, and even pancreatic cancer risk in some cases. So today I want to do something a little different. I do not want to give you hype. I do not want to give you a list of miracle herbs or dramatic claims about one food that destroys your pancreas overnight. That is not how real health works. What I want to do is walk you through the everyday foods and habits that create the most strain, and the smarter replacements that help your pancreas do its job with less stress and more stability. Because once you understand the pattern, the choices get simpler. Let's start with the big one, sugary drinks. If you want one of the fastest ways to overload your system with a large amount of rapidly absorbed sugar, this is it. Soda, sweet tea, energy drinks, sweetened coffee drinks, even fruit drinks that sound healthy but are basically sugar delivery systems. These drinks hit quickly, do not satisfy hunger very well, and can make it harder to maintain healthy blood sugar and body weight over time. That matters because healthy blood sugar control and healthy weight are part of reducing metabolic strain on the pancreas. Now, I am not telling you that one sweet drink means your pancreas is ruined. That kind of talk is nonsense. What I am telling you is that a daily pattern of liquid sugar is one of the easiest ways to make things harder on your body than they need to be. The replacement is not complicated. Water, sparkling water without added sugar, unsweetened tea, coffee without turning it into dessert. If you want fruit, eat fruit. At least whole fruit comes with fiber and tends to move through your body differently than a sugary drink that arrives like a freight train. The second thing I want you to watch is heavy alcohol use. This one is not trendy to talk about, but it matters. Alcohol is one of the major causes of pancreatitis, especially when intake is high over time. Gallstones are another major cause, but alcohol is a very real one. Repeated pancreatic inflammation is not something to play with. It can become severe, and chronic pancreatitis can damage the pancreas over time. And here is where men fool themselves. They compare themselves to someone worse. Well, I don't drink like that guy. Wrong standard. The better question is whether your drinking is helping or harming the body you are trying to keep functional for the next 20 years. If you have a history of pancreatitis, this gets even more serious. At that point, alcohol is not just a bad idea. It can be a direct threat to an already vulnerable system. And if you have never had pancreatitis, reducing alcohol is still one of the cleanest ways to reduce risk. Third, smoking. If you smoke, I need to be blunt with you. Smoking is not just bad for the lungs and heart. It is also one of the most important risk factors for pancreatic cancer, and stopping helps. The risk goes down after quitting. That is not motivational fluff. That is one of the clearer things we know. A lot of people think in categories: lungs, heart, blood vessels. They do not think about the pancreas. But the pancreas is not separate from the rest of your life. Smoke exposure affects systems all over the body. So if you needed one more reason to quit, there it is. And if you do not smoke, good. Keep it that way. Now let's talk about the food pattern that causes problems slowly. The highly processed, low-fiber, constantly snacking way of eating. This is where people get into trouble without realizing it. It is not always dramatic. It is not always obvious. It looks like cereal in the morning, a pastry with coffee, crackers mid-morning, something packaged for lunch, a sweet snack in the afternoon, and dessert at night. Not much protein, not much fiber, not many vegetables. A lot of easy calories, a lot of convenience, a lot of blood sugar swing. And here is what happens. You feel hungry again quickly. Energy gets unstable, weight creeps up, insulin resistance can become more likely over time, and suddenly the pancreas is stuck trying to manage a lifestyle built around constant disruption instead of steady input. That does not mean every processed food is poison. I do not use that language. It means the overall pattern matters. If most of your diet comes out of boxes, wrappers, drive-thrus, and vending machines, you are making life harder for your pancreas. A better pattern looks a lot less exciting and a lot more effective. More vegetables, more beans, more whole grains that actually fill you up. More protein from fish, yogurt, eggs, chicken, tofu, or other solid sources. More meals built from foods that still look like food. And that leads me to fats, because this is where people get confused. The pancreas helps digestion, including fat digestion, but that does not mean all fat is bad for the pancreas. That is too crude. What deserves more caution is the pattern of heavy fried food, fast food, and generally high-calorie eating that often travels with excess body weight and poor metabolic health. Also, people with pancreatitis are often given specific dietary guidance by their clinicians, and that is something to follow closely. So, if your current eating style is built around fried chicken, fries, fast food breakfasts, packaged snacks, and rich late-night meals, I would not call that pancreas-friendly. A more helpful direction is simpler cooking, grilled, baked, roasted, lighter meals that do not leave you feeling flattened afterward, olive oil instead of deep fryers, nuts in sensible amounts, avocado, fish, foods your body can process without turning every meal into a wrestling match. Now I want to bring in something important here because older adults often miss it. Weight matters, but not because I am trying to make this about appearance. This has nothing to do with vanity. Excess body weight is associated with higher risk for several metabolic and pancreatic problems, including pancreatic cancer risk. That is one reason I care more about waistlines at 65 than I do about six-packs at 25. Your body composition affects the stress load on systems you cannot see. So if you are carrying more weight than your frame handles well, this is not a reason for shame. It is a reason for strategy. Less liquid sugar, less alcohol, less constant snacking, more walking after meals, more protein and fiber. More meals that keep you full instead of meals that wake up hunger an hour later. That is a better strategy than waiting until the lab work gets ugly. And while we are on strategy, let's talk about movement. You do not need a brutal gym routine to help your pancreas. Regular physical activity improves insulin sensitivity, and that means your body generally handles blood sugar more effectively. Even something as simple as walking after meals can help. Again, not because walking is magical, because the body tends to handle glucose better when you actually use your muscles. This is one of the reasons I push movement so hard for older adults. Not just for the heart, not just for the joints, for the metabolic system. Muscles are not just there for carrying groceries and climbing stairs. They are part of blood sugar management too. So if you are sitting most of the day and wondering why your energy is flat and your numbers are drifting, part of the answer may be that your muscles are not getting enough work to help the rest of the system. Now let me clean up a common mistake that shows up in videos on this topic. Supplements and herbs. Here is my position. Some people are very interested in things like ginger, turmeric, or milk thistle. Fine. But I do not want you believing that herbs fix pancreatic disease, replace medical care, or give you permission to ignore the bigger issues. That is fantasy. If you have pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer, unexplained weight loss, jaundice, severe abdominal pain, greasy stools, or diabetes that is changing fast, you need medical evaluation. Not a tea, not a detox, not a YouTube guru. That matters because the pancreas is one of those organs where delay can cost you. Pancreatitis can become serious fast. Pancreatic cancer is often dangerous partly because it is frequently found late. So I do not want you normalizing warning signs. If you have upper abdominal pain that may spread to your back, nausea, vomiting, fever, tenderness, or pain after eating, especially if it is severe, that is not the moment to see how you feel tomorrow. That is get medical care territory. And if you notice yellowing of the skin or eyes, dark urine, pale stools, unexplained weight loss, or new digestive symptoms that do not make sense, do not ignore that either. Now, if the goal is everyday support rather than emergency warning signs, here is what I actually want your pantry and fridge to look like more often. Plain Greek yogurt, eggs, beans, oats, vegetables you will actually eat, whole fruit, fish when practical, chicken or other lean protein, olive oil, nuts in moderate amounts, water, unsweetened drinks. Notice what is missing. No miracle powders, no pancreas cleanse, no ridiculous claims, just foods that make life easier for your body instead of harder. And here is the part most people do not like because it sounds too simple. The pancreas usually suffers from patterns, not single moments. Not one birthday cake, not one holiday meal, not one glass of wine. Patterns. Years of smoking, years of heavy drinking, years of high-calorie, low-fiber eating, years of weight gain with no course correction, years of inactivity, years of telling yourself you will clean it up later. That is how trouble usually builds. And the good news is that improvement also comes from patterns. Water more often than soda, meals more often than grazing, walking after dinner, losing some excess weight if needed, cutting back or stopping alcohol, quitting smoking, seeing your doctor instead of guessing, handling diabetes seriously if you have it. That is how you reduce strain. I learned this the hard way in my own life. My body forced me to stop respecting intensity more than intelligence. It forced me to ask better questions. Not how hard can I push, but what signals am I sending every day? Not can I survive this lifestyle, but is this lifestyle helping me stay sharp, stable, and useful 10 years from now? That is the question I want you asking too, because after 60, health is less about winning short-term battles and more about protecting systems. And the pancreas is one of those systems. You may not think about it much. Good. That means it is probably doing its job. But if you want to keep it that way, respect the basics. Do not drown it in sugar. Do not hammer it with alcohol. Do not smoke and pretend this organ is somehow exempt. Do not build your diet around processed junk and then act surprised when your body complains. Do not believe every dramatic health claim you hear online. And do not ignore warning signs that need real medical care. Instead, Eat in a steadier way. Move your body regularly. Keep your weight in a healthier range if you can. Protect your blood sugar. And stop asking convenience foods to carry the load of a long life. That is how grown adults take care of themselves. Not with fear, not with magic, with discipline. So here is what I want you to do after this. Pick one thing, not 10. One. Maybe it is cutting sugary drinks this week. Maybe it is walking for 10 minutes after dinner. Maybe it is finally getting serious about smoking. Maybe it is reducing alcohol. Maybe it is replacing your usual snack with something that actually supports stable energy. Pick one and do it consistently. Because the body you have at 70 is built by the choices you make at 60, and the body you have at 80 is being shaped right now. Your pancreas does not need perfection. It needs fewer attacks from the same bad habits. Protect it, and it will keep doing its quiet work in the background, which is exactly what you want. A strong body is not just about what you can see in the mirror. It is also about the organs you never think about because they are still working. Keep them working.